Welcome to Stream of Conscience, brought to you by Democracy for America, Fairfield County, where we believe that change is possible and you can make it happen. I'm your host, John Hartwell. Our guest today is Angela Larkan. Born in South Africa, Angela moved to the United States when she was 11. Learning about the devastating impact of HIV/AIDS in South Africa while in college at Wesleyan, she researched models of care for orphans and returned home to South Africa in 2008, starting Thanda After School for 380 children in rural Kwazulu-Natal. Angela hopes to use her model and approach to reach more children around South Africa. She was awarded the Mzansi Soul Award for her contributions to South Africa in 2010, was chosen by Levi's as one of 6 global pioneers creating change as part of their Go Forth campaign, and she was the 2012 Clarence Most Dynamic Woman of the Year. Angela, welcome to Stream of Conscience.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Angela, tell me about AIDS, HIV/AIDS in South Africa. What was it that led you to want to start an after-school program?
Well, I grew up in South Africa, so when I started reading about the numbers of people affected by HIV/AIDS, I started to wonder what was going to happen to their children when they died of this disease, because at that time there was no treatment available in Africa. And there's still a lot of issues with accessing treatment there. So I started thinking about the children, and I wanted to see what could be done for them. So I applied for a grant from my university, and I went to South Africa. And once I was on the ground, I saw the devastation that was happening, and from that moment on, I knew I had to become involved in this.
What part of South Africa are you from?
I'm from Kwazulu-Natal. I was born in Durban. So when I was working there, I was in the northern part of Kwazulu-Natal, and the project now is on the south.
Right. And for those who've not been to South Africa, Durban is a coastal city.
That's right.
So somewhat in the north. And most people think of Cape Town and Johannesburg, Cape Town being in the south and Johannesburg being inland.
That's right, yeah. Durban is a much smaller city. And Kwazulu-Natal has a large part of the population. It's also one of the poorest of the provinces. And it has more children than many provinces, and it has the highest rates of HIV infection and rates of orphans.
So those highest rates are in South Africa or in Africa as a whole?
Well, South Africa has the highest prevalence rate in the world for HIV/AIDS.
Okay.
In the country, it depends, there's a lot of different statistics, but in the country it's about 20% of the adult population that is infected with HIV/AIDS.
That's incredible.
In the province where we work, about 40% of the women who are pregnant are HIV positive. And
so passing that to their children is highly likely unless they're treated with the right kinds of drugs.
Well, if you don't have any drugs, there's only a 1 in 3 chance that you're going to pass HIV onto your child. So those odds are not that high to start with, but South Africa did have a very good campaign to help mothers who were pregnant and HIV positive. So they gave them high doses of drugs as they were having the babies, and that helped to bring the rates down. They started that from early on, and that made a huge impact. In fact, it was, I believe, a charity in South Africa that took the government to court to say that it was their constitutional duty to be doing this for the women in the country.
But until recently, my understanding is that the government in South Africa was, I don't say avoiding the problem of HIV/AIDS, but certainly not addressing it head on.
That's right. Well, Thabo Mbeki did, he was not sure, he was not willing to admit that HIV led to AIDS.
Right.
And he didn't believe in a lot of the medication that was happening. So there was a lot of stagnation there in addressing this issue right on. Then when he left office, the government started to take it on.
And he was replaced as president a year and a half ago, maybe?
No, it was actually, I believe it was about 6 years. No, sorry, I would say 4 years ago now.
Okay.
Almost 5 years, yeah.
Ah. So, and what's the situation of women in South Africa in terms of HIV/AIDS and the transmission?
Women are more likely to have HIV/AIDS, especially younger women. It tends to affect older men and younger women more.
That's an unusual combination, older men and younger women. How does that happen?
Well, it is a very patriarchal society. So we see a lot of women who don't have enough. A lot of the problem is women don't have a lot of confidence, and they're not able to stand up sometimes to the men in their lives. And a lot of that issue is also girls getting involved with what we call sugar daddies. So it's girls who may not have enough money to pay for their school fees or their school uniforms or their books, or they're looking for attention, so they might get involved with older men for sort of on a casual basis, and then they become infected. So that's one of the problems.
And so from the point that you attacked was with children who had become orphans.
Yes.
And what's that population look like?
That's a huge population, and that population is steadily growing because we have so many people who are infected with HIV/AIDS right now, and we know that they're going to die. So we know right now that our numbers will only get bigger once they've died. Right now in South Africa, we're at about 3 million children that are orphaned.
Out of how many people who live in South Africa?
There's 45 million people in the country. So I think it works out to about 1 in 4 children at the moment is orphaned.
One in 4 children in the country is orphaned.
That's right. And we expect those numbers to increase.
That's staggering.
Yeah, what I recognized early on is that was going to be the case. And so, because it's a simple math problem, and I said, what are we going to do about this? When you have 3 million children in a country that don't have parents, what kind of care are we going to offer for them? So. And
what kind of care is offered?
Well, what I did is I went and I looked at the models of care that are available. And you have orphanages as one option. You have, you could send cash grants. That's what they do, have sort of a welfare system there. Problem with that is there's no sort of guarantee that the money is spent on the children. And so I didn't really find any model that could really handle those sort of numbers.
Are most of the children who are orphans now taken in within a larger family group?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So Africa, as you may know, has a thing called Ubuntu, and that means I am who I am because of you. So the idea is that everyone works together to take care of the children, to do what needs to be done in the community, and they help each other where they can. So most of the children that become orphaned are absorbed into the extended family. So they will live with either an aunt, a grandmother, a neighbor. Someone will provide shelter.
Maybe an older sibling.
Right, exactly, often an older sibling. The problem with that is that we have a situation where so many of the children now are orphaned that people are taking in so many of children, especially in the rural areas, because a lot of the children get left there when their parents migrate to the cities to go and find work. So you have huge numbers of children being cared for by one person, often a grandmother who's very old, very disabled, and sort of struggling to take care of them. So while they are given a roof over their heads, they struggle with other things, such as providing the kids with enough food, providing them with enough sort of time and attention and sort of accountability and guidance. And so that's where we try to fill in those gaps.
And what's this public school system like for these children?
The public school system is great in that there's universal access. So people do pay for school fees, but if you're in a very poor area, there are no school fees all the way through high school.
So there is universal access for children in South Africa, even if they come from poor rural areas and are orphaned and don't have any other prospects. They can, in fact, go to school.
That's right, yeah. And there are a lot of schools, so that is good. The quality of education in a lot of the rural areas is a problem. They have very low pass rates. And
Are there national exams?
Yes, there are. There's one to finish high school, and that exam, the pass rate is quite low because it's also done in English, and a lot of the kids' level of English is not that great.
But the schools are taught in English, aren't they?
They're supposed to be.
Supposed to be, right. And so you were looking at the situation, you looked at various models, and you said these are not working very well. So what was your model?
Well, I looked at the number of schools in the country, and I realized that we have done a great job building schools in all communities, even the most rural ones. And the children are already at school. We have high attendance rates at the school. We have high access to schools. So I thought if we could just keep those kids for an extra few hours in that empty school building in the afternoons, then we could provide additional support that they need. So they could still live in their in the community.
Right.
They could live in a regular home situation, but they would have that extra support that they need.
And so you came back to South Africa and you launched your program. Tell me about that.
That's right. Yeah, I literally started, when I first started doing research, I landed and rented a car and I made myself business cards and I started driving around doing research. So when I was back to actually start the program, I was a little bit more organized and went with a lot of volunteers from the US to sort of kind of just jumpstart the program and get it up and running within a few weeks. And it was, so we went into a very rural community. We kind of went in with another organization to get acceptance by the chief and the mayor and the local tribal authorities. And from that point on, we started to really earn the respect of the community.
And this is Thanda.
This is Thanda, yes.
And so you're a couple of hours south of Durban, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
But not only south, because Durban is on the coast, but then you have to go inland as well.
Yes, that's right. It's a very rural area.
It's a very rural area. It's a very beautiful area. What is the economy like? What is the social situation like where you decided to go in? And why, in fact, did you choose Thanda as the place that you wanted to start?
The community is very rural, as I said, and there's literally no economy. Unemployment rate is 72%.
Wow.
But I'm actually not sure where what that 28% is, because I don't see it around.
Where they work, you don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So most people, if they're earning any income, are in a city and sending money back. So there's very little local economy. There's also no other NGOs working in this area. There's not a lot of big business nearby, even within hours away. So there just hasn't been a lot of attention to this area, but I saw great need when I went and visited it. And that's why I chose this area, because I felt that there was no one else
So this was an
helping these
area
kids.
that you happened upon in your research phase. And,
Yeah.
And said, when I get this started, this is where I'm going to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so tell me what you do.
Well, Thanda is a non-profit organization. And we empower orphans and vulnerable children. There's 380 children in the program. We empower them with education so that they can have a brighter future. So we use the school buildings in the afternoons to send local youth to run after-school programs, basically. We provide a meal for the kids, and then we we provide obviously a safe space for the kids, an accountable adult who they can go to if they have problems or need support. But what we really try to do with that time is help the kids to not just be a survivor anymore. A lot of the kids have suffered a lot of trauma, and they are really sort of have gone inside of themselves, and they are not even able to tell you what their favorite color is. And they have no curiosity for learning. They are really just trying to make it day to day, and they've lost trust in adults because of what's happened in their lives. So we really try to get those kids to a point where they can really be a happy, productive, healthy member of society, so that they don't end up being a street child or in a gang or living sort of outside of society. So with this time, we try to spark the kids' interest in learning. We are not with them enough of the day to solve all the educational problems, but what we can do is get them so that they are curious about learning, so that they want to know about things, so that when they're in the school during the day, they are paying attention, they read their textbooks, they go home and do their homework, and they understand why they're learning. A lot of kids don't understand why they're in school. So we try to do that, and we do it through a lot of fun hands-on projects. We don't want them to be sitting at a desk anymore, because they've been doing that all day. And the schools in South Africa, especially in the rural areas, the kids kind of sit and listen all day. They don't get a chance to speak or participate. So we try and make it fun. So we'll build volcanoes and make them explode, and we'll, read the Gruffalo story and make masks about it. We'll build solar systems. We'll play games. We play math games, and really try to make it hands-on and fun and get the kids excited.
And you have 380 children that are in the program.
That's right.
How often do they come?
They come every day.
All 380?
All 380.
Wow.
We feed them all every day.
Uh-huh.
We provide a nutritious meal, and then they start their programs. So their programs will change from day to day. Try to keep it exciting. So
Sure.
some days they might be doing a project on learning something. Another day they might be playing sports. We have soccer program, we have basketball. They might be doing art another day. We also teach computers to a few of the kids. And other kids learn about agriculture. So we're trying to, through all of this, really build up their self-esteem and their confidence so that they are able to sort of take charge of their lives and go forward, have hope, and actually make something of themselves and be able to provide for their families.
380 meals a day is a lot. Who does that?
We have a very small room that we call the feeding center. And we have very large pots, literally about this big.
Okay.
And we cook huge amounts of rice, and we make curries from chicken and beef and soy mince and beans, and we feed the kids. So we'll make all of the food at the center. We have a small building there. And then our teachers will take the food to the schools in the afternoons and feed the kids there. So
I visited your program last summer, and it was a small building, so I know that 380 kids are not going to fit into that building.
Right.
So actually what we missed when we were there was the fact that you were also working in the local schools.
Yes.
Okay.
And so each day one of those groups will come to our actual building.
Okay.
And they'll be in the library, and they'll use that space. But the rest goes to the schools.
And how many schools are in the area that you serve?
There's a lot of schools in the area. We were going to 3 schools. This year we added a 4th school.
Okay.
And our goal is to keep going to more schools. Next year we would like to go to 3 more schools because there are so many children in these rural areas that need our support, and the teachers want us to come, the kids really want us to come, so we're trying to raise enough funds to be able to go out there and continue this.
So raising funds. What kind of budget do you have for this program?
Our annual budget is $140,000. So with that, we're feeding and educating all those kids. With another $70,000, we would be able to double the number of kids in our program.
Wow.
Because we have built a solid foundation with the intention of expanding outwards.
Those are not large numbers when it comes to international aid. I mean,
no, it seems like a lot when we're sitting on the ground in rural South Africa and we're saying, where is this money going to come from? We don't know what to do.
Right.
But you're right, it's very small.
And are you partnering at all with organizations like CARE or AmeriCares or Save the Children or UNICEF or any of those other sort of well-known international operations?
No, we're not.
No.
They tend to sort of have what they do, and I think what we're doing is a little bit different, so it doesn't quite fit into what they're doing.
You would think that they would be looking for new models.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, one of our goals is to promote this model so that people who have that kind of access, the government or larger organizations, will take this and put it in every school in South Africa.
Right.
Because I really believe it's the only thing that's really going to break that cycle of poverty, because the poverty we have in South Africa just continues generation to generation. And unless you're giving the kids the type of skills that we offer, nothing's going to break that. So we teach the kids how to think critically about situations. We teach them to look for opportunities. We teach them to think for themselves, and it's really citizenship education in a lot of ways. So it's teaching people how to be a citizen in a democracy, and it's a very new democracy.
Yes.
So there's a lot to be learned, and it's really a new model of education for for Africa in general. That sort of looking at what is needed, and not just doing a traditional Western education, but actually looking at what other gaps can we fill in, and what can be our focus. So I think that's an essential part of really trying to make the kind of change that Mandela and people who fought for freedom envisioned, where it's not just about the laws, but it's actually about a free way of life for all people.
It has to be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So do you have corporate sponsors as well?
We have corporate sponsors in South Africa. We did receive a grant from Levi's and Clarence, but we are now working with Petro SA in South Africa, and we're hoping that they'll be able to support us again.
And you've accomplished all of this, and you're barely 30.
Yes, not yet.
Not yet.
Later this year.
Later this year. I find that amazing. And in addition to working with the children, you also have started another project to help the women of that area. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we started Thanda Zulu as a way to raise funds sustainably. We basically buy beaded jewelry, such as the neck bracelet I'm wearing and the necklace I'm wearing, from an income generation project in South Africa. So these are women who get to work in their homes in the rural areas, and they come into the city once a week to drop off the jewelry and work on new designs and that sort of thing. These are some of the women from some of the most well-known beading families in South Africa. The families have been doing this for generations. So
Really?
it's a very high quality of beading and jewelry.
And it's a skill that's passed down from generation to generation.
Exactly. And what we do is we sell it overseas. And what's great about it is that we sell it in the US through our website, which is thandazulu.org. And we raise funds for Thanda because all of the profits go back to support our after-school programs. But what's also great about it is it's enabling that art, that skill to continue, because we're providing new markets for it.
Right.
Whereas in South Africa, there's not as many markets for it, and a lot of these women would have had to go and try to find other work. But right now, they're able to feed their families, educate their families. They're sending their sisters to nursing school. They're very proud of what they've been able to accomplish through this beading.
So what's next for you?
Well, we are doing a lot of agriculture right now. So right now, I'm doing a lot of chickens and vegetable gardens and things like that. And I'm trying to, so we're focusing a lot on expanding that in the next couple of years, because we feel like it's another skill in the cycle of poverty that's important to help you break it. So we are teaching kids how to grow vegetables at their homes. We're teaching community members how to grow vegetables and have excess that you can sell in the community, because right now that's not being done, and it would make a huge difference given the malnutrition in the community, given the unemployment rates. We're especially working with unemployed youth to try to encourage them to start very small scale businesses. And we're tying it all in with our sustainability project. So our entire building is run off of solar energy.
Yes.
And we have now irrigation systems that are run with gravity irrigation from the rivers. So you need about 1 centimeter of a drop over a stream to pump water 5 meters up. So we're doing things like that, and we have a biodigester that powers our cookers in the kitchen. And so we're also trying to, in the future, become a model of that for these rural communities, so that as they start to get electricity and sort of develop slowly, that they're doing it in a sustainable way. So our focus right now is really on expanding the agriculture programs, being a model of sustainability, and expanding to more schools in the area, or in other areas in South Africa, just really trying to get this model to as many children as we can.
And if someone here wanted to find out more, what would they do?
Well, our website is thanda.org, which is spelled Thanda.
Right.
Sounds like Thanda.
Right.
They could go on there, and we have lots of ways to help. We have a monthly donor program. We are selling the jewelry. We accept donations from all over the world, and people can see exactly what it would be done with their support, and they can follow us on Facebook and Twitter and keep up to date with what we're doing and watch our project and as it grows.
Well, it's an extraordinary story.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'd love to have you back on your next trip. Keep us in
Thank
mind,
you.
and we want to follow what you're doing. It's amazing.
Great. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in.
Zem Singabantwana bakulelizwe isiqu sase-Afrika isizwe sibheke thina ukuba sihole ngempumelelo kumele sikhiqiza bomelo thisho dokotela nesi kanye nonjiniyela.
That's our show for this week. We hope you enjoyed it. You can catch all our shows on YouTube by going to youtube.com/user/DFATVnet. We're also on Facebook and Twitter, and you can send comments or suggestions for a show to info@dfa-tv.net. If you'd like to learn more about progressive political action, we meet on the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. at the Silver Star Diner in Norwalk. We'd love to have you join us. Remember, change is possible, and you can make it happen. This has been Stream of Conscience. I'm your host, John Hartwell. Thanks for watching.